England and South Africa, folks. Pretty intense arm wrestle of a game. That one, 27 points to 26. England get it done. Kind of right at the death. We'll go through some of the key events, some of the stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch this one, and I was rewarded with quite a game. I would hate to watch this one having known the result. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it for anyone, but yeah, you should probably go and watch this one, albeit won't have that same edge if you know the result. But man, it was proper ding-dong battle. A bit of handbags, a bit of feeling about it. But yeah, certainly a very good watch. A bit of a game of two halves as well, man. England in that first half executed some really nice chances. And yeah, second half was more about South Africa. But we'll start with the first. I mean, England, from a pretty kind of long ball in playtime, first kind of couple of minutes, the ball was in play the whole time. And England ended up going close. Stewart with a attempted regather of a Young's grubber, but Villy LaRue has to kind of take it back and dot it down. So you end up with a 5-metre scrum to England, and England actually win the scrum penalty. It was an area of concern going into this game, and it ends up being a concern. But England actually managed to get on top of the first couple of scrums. It doesn't last, but they certainly get on top early. Their scrum penalty means they set they kick for touch and set a maul. The maul gets shut down, but they spin it to the right wing. It ends up coming back to the left. They've managed to kind of open up that space, and Tuilangi goes over in the corner for an early England try. It's 7 points to 0, although Tuilangi has to go off. And it's a good conversion from Marcus Smith from the sideline, given the result. It's a pretty bloody important kick, isn't it? Although you wouldn't have known it at the time. But yeah, 7 points to 0. Tuilangi goes off. Johnny May makes a couple of mistakes. He ends up kind of knocking on a little attempt to restart play after a mark, and then he knocks it on not long later. So there's a bit of handbags. Youngs kicks it out on the full, but it all ends up with the first of many South African penalties to make it 7 points to 3. But in England's credit, if South Africa scores a penalty, they will hit back with a try, which they did. That one was through Freddie Stewart, who ends up getting man of the match. And I would say, if any coaches haven't seen him play yet, because I know he's kind of fairly early on in his career, don't kick Freddie Stewart the ball. Don't kick him the ball. I think he dropped one high ball today. Yeah. He dropped another one later when he was kind of taken out in the air, but that guy is very secure under the high ball, and too many times he was kicked the high ball in this game, I felt, from South Africa. But anyway, he gets a try. That one was a couple of phases after a scrum move, basically. The scrum move set up Mellons, who had a big old line break. They managed to shut it down, South Africa, but a couple of phases later, Stewart is just too big, too strong, and he goes over a substantially smaller Kobus Reinach. So it's 14 points to 3. That being said, South Africa hit back with a penalty to make it 14-6. South Africa concede a penalty, which is not something they did a lot in this game, in the scheme of things, but Underhill managed to win a breakdown penalty in return. So yeah, England concede a maul penalty, then win a breakdown penalty, so it's 14-6 and then 17-6. The exchange continues though. South Africa get the next 2, which is maybe a bit telling. So it goes from 17-6 to suddenly 17-12. Ox, I've got to give Big Ox a shout out on 34. He puts in a big hit on Bevan Rod, which ends up winning his team a penalty. But I watched it and thought, wow, what a hit by Ox. And then I saw Ox standing in the line like a second or two later, and I thought, oh, was it somebody else? I didn't think it was Ox, because he'd made the hit, gotten back to his feet, and was already back in the line on defence that quickly. Like, proper big hit on him. But he ends up winning his team a penalty, so great work. He's having a really good season, I feel like. Stepped up to international rugby really well. Kind of like Freddie Stewart, man. One of the big kind of, I don't want to say a find, because these guys have been around, I mean, Stewart's still very young, but been around long enough that people have been watching them at club level long enough to know they're very good. But yeah, he's done really well. England set a line-out move in South Africa's 22 before half-time, but Eben shut that one down. That was a line-out move back to the hooker, Blumeyer. Eben had a really good game, and he shut that one down pretty much single-handedly. Mellons read a Springbok kick through really well, though, to kind of shut that down. So both sides kind of towards the end of the second half just shutting each other down. Marcus Smith did opt for a drop goal to at least try and get some points from a lot of the territory they had, because, man, England were camped down South Africa's end for quite some time, but just stopped being able to break them. They figured they would get some points, but yeah, the drop goal was a pretty bad effort. And yeah, we do go into halftime with that 17-12 lead to England. A possession and territory, it's England, 57% territory, 56 territory, 57 possession. So kind of, not hugely lopsided, not like All Blacks Ireland last week, but still pretty comfortable. Run meters are 110-54. Concerningly for England, penalties conceded as 7-4 and turnovers conceded as 4-1. So they've got a kind of narrowish lead given the extra ball and territory that they've had. Second half would kind of go the other way around. It starts with the South Africans starting to win penalties at scrum time, but concerningly, and again looking at the number on the board, Pollard misses a penalty when they win a scrum penalty. It was kickable. They miss an opportunity where Damien de Allende, who also has a good game, sets up Khaleesi down the right wing, and Creel's calling for it, but either Creel is a yard in front or Khaleesi's pass is a yard too far back. But their connection wasn't quite there. And yeah, Khaleesi ends up just chucking the ball into touch. It was certainly a good creative opportunity that they managed to miss out on. But yeah, and then 47 minutes, Kyle Sinclair got absolutely manhandled by Marks. So South Africa won another penalty, and they missed that one as well. So you've gone and missed 6 points from the boot and a potential try-scoring chance down the right wing. So missed opportunities, I think, when they do the review of this game, the chances were there, were just not taken. That'll be one area they'll look back on. But yeah, Underhill got pinged at the breakdown, so South Africa really were turning up the pressure. They managed to kick that one to make it 17-15, so back within touching distance. England did knock on a high ball, but it was one that they kicked it through themselves. England put through a high ball and ended up knocking it on. And I'm thinking, man, with the rate at this point that South Africa was winning scrum penalties, I was like, the high ball is not an area you want to go to, because if either side knocks it on, and if they set a scrum, at this point in the game, bomb squads come on, they're just winning scrum penalties. England's forwards, front row are starting to maybe, just get the screws turned on them. So it was kind of an interesting tactical one to keep trying to do that kind of high-risk play. But anyway, there's a 5-metre maul that South Africa set, because that time they don't go for touch, and England managed to shut it down just barely. They get held up, South Africa. Mapimpi went close from the back of the ball because the backs were all getting in there, something you kind of haven't seen before. But yeah, from the goal line dropout, though, Frans Steyn tries this tactic, which a few teams have kind of cottoned onto. If they drop it long, you reply with a long-range drop goal. He misses it. It's another shot at the post. I know both sides had missed drop goals, but yeah, it's another missed opportunity. They go for the corner again on 61. Eventually, that was, I think, England had a box kick charged down. Like Ruffy Quirk had come on, and they set, like the first time they set at the ruck, he was like, I don't want it. He gave it to Marler. The second time he had that nice kind of caterpillar ruck with a bit of extra distance, he still got charged down. I think it was Big Eben again. Guy was everywhere. And at that point, you kind of felt like the yellow card's going to be coming, man, because England are conceding heaps of penalties. They were on the back foot, conceded a penalty at the breakdown. There still wasn't a yellow card at that point, but there was one not long later through Stewart. Eben got hit in the head not long later as well, but they said he was kind of falling, and he was twisting and falling, so he did get contact in the head. But by the frameworks which we've seen, sorry, whiteboard, if there's that kind of mitigation, there won't be any foul play. So it's a hard one as well, because you have seen that kind of stuff carded before, but given the way the framework's set up, as far as I understand it, I can kind of live with that one kind of not being a card. But yeah, they do get the card, which was coming just through the extended amount of penalties, man. Second half penalties was brutal for England, especially at the breakdown. But yeah, they do kick that one over South Africa. So it's 17 points to England, 18 points to South Africa. Elton's come on at that point as well for South Africa. They did substitute some of the guys a bit earlier than maybe we're used to seeing. That being said, man, 65 minutes England pretty much first chance of the second half. Like, we talk about taking chances, and South Africa missed a few in the start of that second half. They haven't had bugger all in that second half, but they've managed to nail one. It's a line-out move that just sets up Marchant with a nice little inside ball. He's got Quirk running a support line. He manages to draw in Creel, who's the last man, and just gives it to Quirk, who puts the hammer down to go over. So out of nowhere, England scored and go back in front when it was looking like South Africa were just kind of grinding them into the dust. They managed to score it, and they got the crowd back into the game, which I think was important, because the second half, the crowd hadn't had much to cheer about. But as soon as they scored that try, the crowd is absolutely back into full voice. So it's 24 points to 18. The yellow card actually comes after the try. Sorry, I got that wrong. But yeah, it was coming for quite some time. Now, South Africa do finally kind of punish England. They exert some of that pressure. Mapimpi gets a try after the maul had gone close. They just spin the ball wide, and with the yellow card, the numbers are always going to be there. So, yeah, they missed the key conversion from the sideline. That one's Elton, kind of from a hard side from him being a left-footed kicker. So it's still 24-23 with England in front. But Frans Steyn takes a penalty not long later to put South Africa back in front. That was Big Dwayne who won a penalty with the Toje not releasing. So 24-26, South Africa in front. Big Eben gets a line break. They can't manage anything from it. I was kind of hoping he'd keep it ball in hand and wait for his support guys to get him. He was on front foot, so I think he would have held it, but he passed it, and kind of nothing came from that one. And then with 5 minutes to go, Khaleesi gets yellow carded. He takes out, I think it was Marchant in the air, when England put in a nice little dinky kick. And yeah, Khaleesi wasn't in a realistic position to catch the ball. Takes out Marchant. You've seen those kind of 100 times. The guy who's in the lower position, if he makes contact with the guy in the air, you got to protect the guy in the air, and he gets carded. And then, England go for touch, because it's on about halfway, so it's maybe a bit too far. You kind of wish at that point England had their own kind of, they do got some long-range goal kickers, but none in the squad at that point. So they go for touch, and man, Eben wins the English line-out. He gets a line-out steal. So I'm wondering, man, they're going to hold on to South Africa. It's 14-14. But then right towards the death, Frans Steyn gives away a penalty for I think I had the commentary really low. And I was doing a live stream at the same time, so sometimes I miss stuff. But he seemed to dive in off his feet for something. You guys will have to clear it up, because I kind of missed part of it. But there's handbags, and the resulting point there is it's a penalty, because England had advantage anyway. But it's a much closer penalty, and they do kick it, so it's 27 points to 26. England are in front with like a minute to go. And South Africa have to win the restart. They can't get it done. Freddie Stewart's the man who eats that one up, and South Africa get pinged for taking him out in the air. The TMOs look at it, but just the penalty. They kick it out, 27 points to 26. There's almost more handbags after the whistle, man. The tension was pretty brutal. But in terms of the game, it was a good watch. First half, England certainly scored their points that they needed to, and they got that try when they absolutely needed it in the second half. South Africa, I mean, they conceded those points early, but just like an arm wrestle, they really just started turning the screws into that first half, and then especially the majority of the second half, but just missed chances, man. Unusual from the boot, and the maul maybe didn't get its usual pay. But yeah, run meters finished 214 to 204. Possession and territory finishes South Africa 55-45 for possession, 52-48 for territory. But you look at the second half numbers, it's South Africa 65% possession, 62% territory. So first half was England, second half it was South Africa, and then some. So yeah, clean breaks 3 apiece, defenders beaten 15-16, so pretty tight. Both sides missed a couple of lineouts, but the penalty count is where it's at, 18-8. That's just at the breakdown, especially the South African guys were relentless. But yeah, the goal kicking percentage, 100 for England, 70 for South Africa. That's not including the 2 missed drop goals, 1 for each side. But yeah, Stewart gets 58 run meters and beats a defender. He's man of the match, very secure under the high ball. They had a couple of guys, Hill and Laws, who both had 8 from 8 tackles, so good shifts from them. For South Africa, Dale Indy, 40 run meters, beats 4 defenders in a game which was defensively relatively solid from both sides. They still look real dangerous. Etzebeth makes 13 from 13 tackles. I'm convinced if South Africa win that one, that Eben is man of the match, but because they lose, they go with that man who was diffusing most of the stuff under the high ball, Freddie Stewart. So yeah, man of the match, try from him. Good stuff. So yeah, really good game. Very entertaining watch. I think South Africa scored 8 points during that yellow card, so they finally managed to turn the screws. But yeah, that yellow card to Khaleesi, and then just maybe the handbags and stuff. Don't know, but yeah, crazy game. Could have gone either way, but congratulations to England. Really good victory. Good way for them to kind of end their season. So yeah, both sides kind of ticking along pretty nicely, I reckon. You guys let me know what your thoughts on the game were. Did you think, England just kind of 3 tries to 1? Too clinical. South Africa, disappointed with the loss, I am sure. But certainly could have won it on another day. You guys let me know your thoughts. England Rugby Store will no doubt be having a sale. So I'll put a link to them in the description if you want to celebrate by getting some England gear for you England fans. They're an affiliate of the channel. They tend to have sales after match days. But anyway, I'm going to go watch Wales and Australia. We've got a big day of rugby ahead for me. It's Sunday morning. So yeah, you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.